Aloha! Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome to tonight's episode. We're starting a little late tonight, so that's why it's a good idea to hit that bell so you can be alerted whenever I start. I don't have an exact schedule right now, but tonight we're going to be talking about something really interesting. We're going to be talking about my boulder origin theory. I have a new theory that I'm going to share with you all about boulders and where they come from. Like real big boulders, big round ones that, seem to be just sitting around in places where they don't look like they belong. And we're going to go ahead and check out some pictures on the internet of various strange rock anomalies. What I'd like to do real quick is just pop out the chat. It looks like there's some people already in the chat. It's awesome. All right, sweet. I'm going to pop out the chat because what I like to do is join the chat from time to time in between talking about things. If you want to get my attention, remember to type in @JayDreamerZ. And I will, I'll try to read your comment. If I miss it, then just, feel free to retype it. But yeah, type in @JayDreamerZ. Try to stick with the subject and remember, bring the good vibes, right? We're the good vibe tribe. And yeah, so thanks for joining me. So tonight is not truth in movies. Tonight we're just going to talk about a subject. Monday nights are going to be truth in movies. And then Tuesdays and Wednesdays, we'll just talk about different subjects. And then Thursdays, I'm really going to try to hit hard on some serious plasma apocalypse subjects. Everything we talk about is going to be related to that, but let's jump into it. What's up to everybody in the chat? Mikey Orgo. Hey, were you the one that said Jay's in full on dad mode or something last night? I totally was full on dad mode. But yeah, thanks. You guys cracked me up. We got Joseph Lucas in the chat. Lisa Post. Hey, what's up, Lisa? Music. Zulu69 says greetings from Croatia. Greetings. Let's see. We also have B13. Sharp Smoke. What's up, man? Right of Mankind says good night to the Good Vibe Tribe. Bricks and Brooms. And Win Wilson. Aloha. Aloha to you all and to everybody who will join us. So, let's go ahead and let's talk about boulders, okay? Let's talk about rocks. Let's talk about some real simple stuff that I feel like we take for granted these days, right? When I was a kid, I would be walking wherever on a path somewhere, going out, playing or whatnot, and I would look at the boulders that I see on the hillsides or in the park or wherever. Huge, giant, smooth and rounded rocks for the most part. Boulders and rocks can take all sorts of shapes and sizes, and I believe that they're made in different ways. So we're going to talk about those different possibilities, right? One thing that did not sit well with me as a kid was when I asked people, hey, where'd these come from? Where'd that rock come from? How was that rock made? It's a simple question, right? I mean, as a kid, I thought that grown-ups were just going to explain it all to me, but it turns out grown-ups did not have the answers as to why that rock is over there. How did it get over there? How is it not inside of the earth? Why is it outside on the surface? Why is it just sitting there, right? Not a lot of really good explanations were coming my way. And so I had to search for the answers myself. And to do that, I had to start using my creative mind, my left brain instead of my right brain. Instead of just accepting what people have told me which is, that's just the way it's always been. How do you like that answer, right? That's just the way it's just a rock. It's just a mountain. It's just a formation. It's just this. I don't like that word just. It just simplifies things. I just said it. It simplifies things, right? People dismiss. It's dismissive. They don't talk about where these anomalies came from, how they possibly could have came to be, because that would be philosophy, right? And we're not really taught in academia, modern academia, to be philosophers, to wonder about things, to come up with your own ideas on things. We are taught to listen to the person who is above and the person who is above them, and they will just pass it down to us through our local news station at 6 o'clock at night. Or our teachers in school. They'll give us all the answers. And the answers that they're going to give you are, that's just how the earth is, right? Millions of years and all of a sudden it looks like that. Or hey, how about wind and rain, right? We have something called the Garden of the Gods here. Let me start screen sharing real quick. I want to show you guys the Garden of the Gods. Mikey Orgo says, JayDreamerZ, yes, sir. You letting them know. No is no. Only dads have that confidence. I know, right? I totally picked up on that. All right, so let me get to the slideshow here. Here it is. Let's see. Is it going to work? Where's the slideshow? Boom. There it is. All right, cool. So now I have to fix it. Wait, do I have to fix it? No, I don't have to fix it. It's good. Let's make it bigger. I like the images to be nice and large on the screen so you can see them better. All right, so we're gonna check out some stuff. First thing I just want to do, I'm just searching Google. You guys are right there with me. I want to type in Garden of the Gods. Boom. Now this is right down the street from where I live, right? And I have been there. Okay. Not only have I been there. Okay, first of all, let me talk to you. Let me show you what it looks like. Okay, let me show you a good picture of the Garden of the Gods. So this one's a pretty good picture. You see like these plates of rock just shooting up at this real weird Star Trek kind of angle that does not look natural whatsoever. Okay, if it's all ground, like you look at this and you're like, hey, how did that come to be? That's the first question a childlike mind is going to ask. Why does it look like that, right? Okay, so I have climbed these rocks. I have walked past them many times, taken pictures, taken samples of them. And this range actually extends for quite a few miles. And there's many places like this in the earth, okay, in our realm. This is just my local one where we have it here. So there's actually the government has taken control of this little piece of land like they always do. And they set up their little tourist buildings or whatever where you can go in and buy an infinite number of different types of snow globes for some strange reason at every gift shop across the world. You will be able to buy a snow globe. What is it about snow globes? Maybe that shape or something? Do you think that attracts the eye of these tourists and is connected to all of these popular sites around the world, right? Well, that's just my own 2 cents on that, but I think the snow globe has a lot to do with the true shape of the world that we live on, at least locally, okay? But anyway, so I go into like this little visitor center at the Garden of the Gods, and I'm like, hey, how did this rock formation get to be like this? Why does it look like that? How was it formed? And I knew it was coming. I swear, on cue, the lady went, well, over the course of millions of years, wind and rain slowly sculpted out the hillside, and all of the rock fell apart, leaving you behind the shape that you see. Stop. Stop. You're not saying anything. I call that puke. Okay, that's just puking, like regurgitating something that somebody else told you, which is so vague in general, it doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And what they're hoping and praying is that you allow they will give you permission to use your creative mind for 2 seconds to just imagine over millions of years, like how this sort of shape just kind of came to be. I don't buy that. I've never bought that. It doesn't sound right to me, right? Wind and rain just happen to chisel all of this out. Where is the rest of it? Wind and rain doesn't make rock just disappear, right? Where is all of the rest of like the mountain that's supposed to be there? If it was wind and rain, you would expect it to look like, there's little piles of dust and sand and I don't know, mud, all kinds of stuff all over the place, but it's not. And it's always these types of rocks at this strange angle. Can you kind of see? I don't know if you can see it there, but in person, these rocks, they don't just go straight up out of the ground. They're actually tilted at a slight angle. So really, if it's wind and rain, is it always wind and rain coming at that particular angle and that's why they're growing that way? You have to ask these questions. Tiffany Vinci's in the chat and says, I'm so happy I made it. Hi, Jay. Hey, what's up, Tiffany? Abraxas, know thyself. What's up? Let's see. Who else do we have in the chat? Remember, if you want to get my attention, just type in @JayDreamerZ and I'll try to read your stuff. Charlie Beats says, I watch about mud fossils. Hey, this is all going to be related to mud fossils. Well, some of it will, I'll say. Anyway, I wanted to show you guys an example of where I'm coming from before we actually get into looking at some strange rock formations. My mindset is asking where it came from. How did it come to be created that way? Why does it look that way? What are some other possibilities other than wind and rain sculpted all of these wonderful rock formations that you see all over the world. And they're not just looking like this, right? To me, this looks like, I don't know, it could be all kinds of stuff. Right now, just hypothesizing, it looks to me like this is the line where plasma treaded just above like the surface of the world when it was very muddy. And that plasma, the huge plasma tubes, remember we were talking about the plasma tubes yesterday when we broke down Bill and Ted? Those plasma tubes reach down into our world and they attract that mud. They pull it up into the air and then solidify it, petrifying it with a zap. And you get something that looks like that. Or possibly, maybe these are petrified ancient giant mushrooms that were growing off of like the side of a giant tree that fell down. I don't know. I'm speculating. I like the first thought better. What I don't like is millions of years of wind and rain. You will believe in millions of years changing anything into anything. Like, sorry. I'm not seeing millions of years. I'm seeing instantaneous action that was catastrophic. That's what I'm looking at. Excuse me. It's Pinecone is in the chat. What's up? It's Pinecone. And says it's jibber jabber. They do it all so much they don't have to actually explain anything. I know, right? They just talk in little circles until finally they get back to like where they were in the start. And then they look at you and go, so yeah, makes sense, right? Yeah, right. You know what I mean? Right? Like, no, not right. Stop. Like, you're not making any sense. You haven't said anything. Anyway, so let's check out some stuff. I got a website pulled up here. If you want to follow along, you can. It's bbc.com. Not a website that I follow or anything. I just typed in strange rock formations in the world. I just typed that in. This happens to be a random website that popped up. So let's check out some of these interesting places. Actually, let's not. I don't want to do that yet. I'm sorry. I'm switching gears. So before we do that, I want to just look up boulders. Because that's where that's how I began all this crazy roller coaster is Boulders. So let's take up Boulders. There's actually a place here in Colorado called Boulder, Colorado. So here's a perfect example. You see this boulder just sitting there, right? This one's actually down the street. This is in the Garden of Gods area. But let's look at these random boulders in strange places, right? Like, where did they come from? Why is it that they look the way that they do? If this is just a part of the earth that snapped off or broke off somehow, from where? From where did it come from, right? Where do these boulders come from, right? How did this crop, I don't know what to call it, how this little garden of boulders come to be looking like that? How did it come to be there, right? I mean, if it's coming from the earth, then it's almost like it's spat up out of the earth, right? Where are these coming from? Yes, I know some people will say, well, there's earthquakes, duh, and earthquakes will break the earth. Yes, of course. So along fault lines and like canyons and cracks in the ground or something, yeah, sure, of course, I would expect to see some rocks dropping off. That makes total sense. But when I'm in a field and there's a giant 6-foot tall rounded boulder just staring at me, like, what are you doing here? And I'm like, what are you doing here, right? That does not belong. They're out of place. No, I can't be convinced that like ancient man got together a pulley system of like 18 different logs and they just rode them along I'm sorry, there's something that does not sound right about that. Not that it didn't happen, not that it can't happen. It's just that this is so prolific across the world that it seems to me like there's got to be a better explanation for it, right? All right. So let's see. Let me jump in the chat. Mikey Orgo says, amazing old trees for sure and other entities. Very interesting past. This connecting the dots game is wonderful and truly allows you to see that we come from greatness. I totally agree with you. So my question to myself, I was taking my son out on a little nature walk a few weeks back, right? And there's just these random weird boulders like that are a totally different color than the dirt that's in the surrounding area. They're totally made of a different substance and everything. They're strangers. They don't belong there. These are foreign boulders, and those are the ones I'm talking about. I've seen these boulders on top of mountains, all over the place. How does boulders like these get on the mountaintops, right? Like, I'm sorry, I can't go along with like an earthquake and all of a sudden it's at the very top of the mountain. I don't see that happening. How is that possible? So I was thinking about the plasma apocalypse. I was thinking because this is the creation event. So it should be responsible for much of the creating of this world, including placing and just kind of throwing these rocks strewn across the land. Strewn? Is that the right word? Strewn across the land, right? And I'm like, how could that be? Well, I know there's going to be a worldwide tempest, right? It's going to blow everything in one direction, which means it's going to blow all of those debris, loose rock, dirt, mud, water, all of the stuff that's loose, sand, all of the stuff basically that is the ingredients and building blocks for boulders, for rocks, for anything that's like a rock or a boulder, stones, all that type of stuff, right? Now, I'm not saying they all come from this. However, it's a top candidate for me, right? So far. So here's what happens. What if everything's getting sucked up into the sky, right? The sky itself is just a mix, right? A big melting pot of the water from the seas and the oceans and lakes mixing with dirt and debris, sand from the desert, mud, all kinds of different substances in different places, right? And it goes up into the air. And if there's zero gravity, then all of the liquid forms like mud and stuff like that that's going to harden into rocks, they're going to take on a shape that looks more smooth and rounded as they're up there in quote unquote zero gravity, kind of floating around as like mud, basically, right? And then a plasma beam comes by and zaps it and petrifies it. Now, all of a sudden, it's a floating boulder. It's a boulder up in the sky floating around. Now, those boulders are going to crash into other ones that are made. They're going to break off, make smaller pieces and chunks and stuff like that. However, many of those rocks and boulders that seem to just be random to us are going to slowly follow that tempest back down once gravity restores, or whatever you like to call it, electromagnetic force keeping us to the ground, whatever you want to call it. Slowly it starts to come back on after the poles switch and we go through that neutral point. Gravity turns off during the neutral point, and then it starts to slowly restore itself, which means that those things up in the air don't just whoosh, fall down with like all of the splendor and glory of today's gravitational force. No, they float back down. They slowly and gently fall back down to the ground, maybe roll for a little bit, and then they settle. And to me, that made a lot of sense. To me, it made sense and explained so much about when it comes to the Stone Age. And we see all these stones and rocks and everything everywhere in a world that was shaken up, liquefied, became like a huge temporary bog or swamp, right? All that mud gets molded and shaped. I don't know how to talk right now. Molded and shaped and stuff by the hands of God, by the plasma hands, by those plasma fingers that reach down and mold and shape this world. Right? Then everything that gets sucked up is in danger of becoming petrified, like we talk about many times. The plasma can petrify. Electricity does petrify, period. It's a known fact, right? We've got like a tree that falls on a power line. Many of those trees have been zapped and instantly turned to rock. You can look it up. All right, so that is my boulder origin theory. I believe that many of these boulders, see, some people say like, oh, well, they're all smooth and rounded because they used to be in the water. They used to be in a lake or a river or a stream. Hey, I just got a donation. Emery Crystal Thalen says, glad to see you're live. It's refreshing to hear different ideas. Thank you. Thank you very much. You're awesome. I appreciate it. It's so cool. I never get used to like all of this stuff. Anyway, so yeah, this is my boulder origin theory. It can apply to not just boulders, but rocks in general and stuff. So that is one theory as to where these strange rock anomalies come from. I am not the type of person to say, well, that's it. Everything comes from the sky. All of these things, they just come from the sky. They're petrified up there, and that's how they all are. No, not at all. There's lots of different strange rock formations. Let's take a look at some of them. All right, so this right here these are called the fairy chimneys. So let's stop right there. Fairy is today's word that we use. We have this idea of a cartoonified creature that's small or, tiny. It probably has real tiny little fly wings or something, and it kind of buzzes around. It's got a little wand. That's not a fairy, okay? Okay, fairies come from the Vaeri, or the Aryans, the Aryan race, or people who came down from above. And they were the Anunnaki, etc., and so on and so forth. I call them bipedal Fantazoids, because they take different types. Not everybody that comes down is going to be of that race or species from somewhere else, right? So I don't try to just lob all of them up into like they were all this. You know what I mean? If that makes sense. But anyways, it comes from the vaeri, the fairies, or the fairies, right? Also, some people mistake centralized buildup of electromagnetic energy whenever it starts to light up. Remember we talked about that too? They mistake those for fairies too. So either way, it's related to electricity and electromagnetic phenomenon, or the plasma apocalypse and those beings who come from the electrified universe out there, right? Ew, excuse me, I'm so sorry. Mute. I always forget to mute the microphone. I'm so sorry, that's so gross. Try not to do that. Anyways, so these are called the fairy chimneys in Turkey, right? And I think it's in Cappadocia, right? Yeah. So these strange conical spires are found in Cappadocia region of Turkey. Let's just read what it says real quick. Several million years ago, here you go, several million years ago. I love how they start things off. Several million years ago. Like, they really allow your creativity to get in there when they throw millions of years at something, because they're like, just throw millions of years at it. Like, they can work that out over millions. Of course, you could pretend that anything happens over the course of millions of years. So, I don't know. Anyways. Several million years ago, active volcanoes spewed volcanic ash that covered the ground. Rainwater and wind eroded the soft... I'm sorry. Okay. Rainwater... I can't do it. Rainwater and wind eroded the soft compressed volcanic ash, leaving behind the harder overlying basalts, forming the fairy chimneys. What a bunch of BS that sounds like. Doesn't that sound like that's made up? Like somebody made that up. Come on, that doesn't sound right. Something sounds way off about that explanation. Okay, let me offer an alternative. These look like mushrooms. It looks to me like, if we took away the fact that they're rock, you know what I mean? They look like mushrooms. Like, that's the shape. If the world once grew and was a huge garden for giant vegetation, right? Huge flora and fauna everywhere. Don't you think there would also be a lot of mushroom growing happening, right? I think so. I think there's gonna be a whole bunch of mushrooms growing up into the sky, huge ones, this big, that became petrified during the plasma apocalypse. Not all of them, right? But these ones could have been. And then those petrified mushrooms were perfect to make houses out, to carve out, to hollow out, and make houses for those plasma apocalypse survivors from the prior age who were very small. Very strong, but very small. Now do you start to see the origin of the story for the Smurfs and why people living inside of giant mushrooms is mentioned all throughout like our fantasy and our fiction, and it's ingrained in our heads, right? So does that mean that these were like made up in the sky and they fell back down into this order? No, not at all. These things could have been attached to the ground, so they never got sucked up in the first place, but the plasma beams came down into this particular area, petrifying them. It's a possibility. It's definitely a possibility. Let's check out some more stuff. It's Pinecone is in the chat and says, JayDreamerZ, you should do an audio version of your book in that tone. Millions of years ago. Like... Okay, maybe. I don't know. All right, let's see what the next one is. This one is called Ha Long Bay in Vietnam. I hope I can use that accent. People don't get all pissed. People so dumb. Have you guys seen that song? Oh my God. Anyways, Ha Long Bay in Vietnam. And this is an amazing part of the world for geography. Vietnam, China, Eastern India. Wow, I would love to go and visit one of these days. I will go and visit one of these days. And it blows my mind when people talk about like Vietnam and China and North Korea and all this stuff on the news or in everyday talk. It's always some sort of crazy political this and that. I don't even hear that. I don't even see that. I hear people talking about Maya Bay or Thailand or Vietnam or China or all these places, and I'm in mental awe because I'm picturing stuff like this. I know that this stuff like this is huge in those areas of the world. And they have all kinds of interesting stories as to the origins of these places, right? All right, so let's check it out. It says, Ha Long Bay in Vietnam. I love doing that accent. This spectacular, I want to do the whole thing in that accent now, but I don't want to be offensive or anything. All right, anyways. This spectacular landscape is dotted with limestone pillars, arches, and caves. Let's check this out. Limestone pillars. I have found limestone continuously pops up in my research for like the plasma apocalypse and geography and even in fiction. Remember the rock biter on the Neverending Story? He loved limestone, man. Like, he'll eat rocks or whatever, but limestone, he was like, a delicious lime. I can't do it. A delicious limestone rock with a dash of quartz, I believe he says, right? Isn't that weird? The producers could have written the rock biter to eat any type of rock. Oh, man, the green screen made my teeth black. Oh, it sucks. Anyways, I'll fix that. But yeah, limestone. They had him eat limestone. So it's really interesting that limestone pops up here. You know why? You know what limestone's made out of? Does anybody in the chat know? Let's see who can Google it the fastest. What's the main component in limestone? I'm going to wait. And whoever says it first gets a shout out, I guess. I don't know. I don't have anything else. Sorry. All right. So I'll keep my eye on the chat. So let's go ahead and read a little bit more. So this spectacular landscape is dotted with limestone pillars, arches, and caves. The rocks have been shaped by the repeated rise and fall of the sea over 500 million years. Okay, so this that you see here, they're saying this was made because the sea level went up and down a bunch. Real slowly. Freaking super slowly, okay? Because we're talking about 500 million years made this somehow. I don't know. I'm not buying it. Let's see. Quartz. Nope, not quartz. Not lime. Right? You would think so. Let's see here. Limestone is flesh. Charlie beats. You got the closest. Yeah, flesh. The official answer is bone or skeleton. Skeletal remains, right? That's the official one. But hey, I like flesh because flesh can definitely petrify. Ask Domo Orogato Mr. Mudfossil. What's his name? Not Roger, but what's that dude's name? The mud fossil dude. Domo Oro something. I got the song in my head now. I can't think of it, but his name sounds like that song. I forget. Anyway, somebody will remind me, I'm sure. So yeah, basically it's made out of living beings. Limestone is made out of beings that were once alive. That's what it is. That's the main component. Interesting, right? All right, so let's move on. Let's check this out. The Eye of the Sahara, right? I know a lot of people are like, oh, it's Atlantis. Look, it's circular. It's Atlantis. Like, all right, I hear you. Totally could be. Totally could be. I don't think it is. But hey, that doesn't mean just because I don't think it is doesn't mean it's not. But what I can tell you is yes, definitely. Look at these circles right here. But also look at these ridges all the way around the outside. Canyon-like ridges, which makes this a depression, right? So let's read about it. Eye of the Sahara in Mauritania. Mauritania. Welcome to Mauritania. I need to be a tour guide somewhere. Dang it. You know, I used to actually like work at the Rainforest Cafe as like a little tour guide waiter. Yeah, it was fun. Anyways, all right, the Eye of the Sahara. Formerly known as Rikat structure, the Eye of the Sahara looks like a bullseye from above. Totally right. I agree. It does. Located in the Sahara Desert, it is a dome-shaped rock structure. Interesting. Dome-shaped. Rock structure about 50 kilometers across. 50 kilometers across? I don't know if Atlantis was only 50 kilometers. It could have been. I don't know. I'm not sure it's Atlantis. But hey, it could be. Once thought to have been caused by a meteorite impact. See? Now see that people are starting to think, right? I like this. Hey, it kind of looks like Atlantis. Cool. Let's take the little piece of that, add it to the bigger picture. It looks like something from above hit it. Cool. Let's take a piece of that and add it to the bigger picture. Let's keep on doing that with everyone's perspectives and ideas until we get a bigger, better picture of what that could be. I think we should do that with everything. It'd be awesome. Anyhow, here's my ideas about the Eye of the Sahara. Oh wait, let's finish this. Let's finish this, right? Located in the Sahara Desert, it's a dome-shaped rock structure about 50 kilometers across. Once thought to have been caused by a meteorite impact, it is now believed to have formed from uplifted rock that was later eroded. What? What do you mean uplifted rock? Rock doesn't just uplift. What does that mean? Uplifted. It's uplifted rock, like I said. Yeah, I heard you. It's uplifted rock, right? I'm gonna have this conversation. I'm sorry. Yeah, it's uplifted. Okay, it's uplifted. It just happens to be uplifted circular all the way around. The Earth just uplifted it in a circle. Okay, thanks. Appreciate it. National Geographic voice guy. Uplifted rock that was later eroded. Okay, later. That sounds like the most generic, vague, blah, bland, blah. That doesn't make any sense. I'm sorry. Like that, all you did is give me permission to just make it up in my head. That's all. Well, anyways, here's my idea. My idea is that this is a plasma impact. This is an electrical impact scar on our world from the plasma tentacles, tubes, fingers, whatever you want to call them, that come down. The bigger ones. The bigger ones I call I call them the trunks, the plasma trunks, because it's like a tree, basically, right? It has its bigger trunks, and those branch off and split just like the Hydra or, whatever you want to call it, those dragons that you cut off their head and they sprout another one. That's plasma, by the way. Dang it, sorry. Anyway, a plasma trunk, boom, zaps this particular spot. The electricity within causes the uplifting of the Earth that they're talking about, right? It uplifts the Earth. It pulls it up. It's attracted to it, okay? Pulls it up, and it also scars it out and creates a crater or an impact crater from the plasma, the electrical arcing, hitting the ground. That's what I see. As far as the colors go, I'm not sure. Honestly, I haven't thought about it that much. I'm sure there's a good reason for the color, and it could have something to do with, I don't know, instant change. Like, the plasma has the ability to instantly change many things, if not everything, instantly, or very, very, very quickly, okay? So, to me, it wouldn't be a surprise if, like, whatever was around that area got zapped by the plasma and it turned it blue. Or maybe it's glass or something. I don't know. I haven't looked into it that much. But let's move on. Let's see. Mikey Orgo says, JayDreamerZ, have you got into the Book of Og? I have. I've read the whole book, actually. I got a copyright strike for sharing that book. Thank you very much, Damon, whatever your name is. Nah, the dude's been through a lot, I know, but that kind of sucked because I liked sharing that book. But yeah, I totally have read that book, forward and backward. And I was going to do voices for all of the dang titans in that book when I was going to read it, but I can't, so. All right, Mikey Orgo also says, that's why you have great customer service on your channel. It makes so much sense. I could totally see it. Well, cool. I never thought about having customer service on my channel, but yeah, hey, I like it. Thanks. Veryl Keeler says, Godvelamste has a very interesting channel. Have you seen it? No, I haven't. Honestly, guys and girls, I have not really been channel surfing a lot on YouTube lately. I'm starting to get back into researching and seeing what other channels are talking about and stuff. But dude, I've been doing way too much stuff in my personal life for months now. So I love all the recommendations because I go back and watch these videos primarily so that I can read the chat because I miss a lot of stuff that's said in the chat. So I go back and watch my videos once the chat's uploaded so I can check it out. So anytime you guys plug in hey, check out this video or whatever, many times I do, as long as you keep it simple and you don't just put a go watch this channel. No, I'm probably not going to go watch the channel. You gotta kind of convince me. You know what I mean? Anyways. All right. So let's check out some other stuff. Actually, let's take a break. Let's take a quick break. We'll do a 2 to 5 minute break so people can go to the bathroom, grab some drinks or whatnot. We'll come back. We'll check out the rest of this and think about if you have any questions or if you want me to Google certain rock anomalies or geographic anomalies or geologic? I don't know. There's too many suffixes added to the ends of everything these days. Anyways, let's go ahead and take a break and we'll be back in a couple minutes.
Around the world men's thoughts will fly, quick as the twinkling of an eye, and waters shall great wonders do. How strange, and yet it shall come true. Beneath the water men shall walk, shall ride, shall sleep, shall even talk, and in the air men shall be seen in white and black and even green. For in those wondrous far-off days the women shall adopt a craze to dress like men in trousers wear, and to cut off their locks of hair. They'll ride astride ride with brazen brow as witches do. On broomsticks now there'll be a sign for all to see. Be sure that it will certain be. Then love shall die and marriage cease, and nations wane and babes decrease, as wives shall fondle cats and dogs, and men live much the same as hogs. Pictures alive with movements free, boats like fishes beneath the sea. When men like birds shall scour the sky, then half the world deep drenched in blood shall die. Then half the world deep drenched in blood shall die. For those who live this century through, in fear and trembling this shall do. Flee to the mountains and the dens, to bog and forest and wild fens. For storm will rage and oceans roar, when Gabriel stands on sea and shore. And as he blows his wondrous horn, old worlds die and new be born. Fiery dragon will cross the sky 6 times before this earth shall die. Mankind will tremble and frightened be, for the 6 heralds in this prophecy. For 7 days and 7 nights, man will watch this awesome sight. The tides will rise beyond their ken to bite away the shores, and then the mountains will begin to roar, and earthquakes split the plain to shore, and flooding waters rushing in will flood the lands in that mankind cowers in muddy fen, and snarls about his fellow men. And when the dragon's tail is gone, man forgets and smiles and carries on to apply himself. Too late, for mankind has earned deserved fate. His masked smile, his false grandeur will serve the gods their anger stir, and they will send the dragon back to light the sky. His tail will crack upon the earth and rend the earth, and man shall flee king, lord, and serf. And men will die of thirst before the oceans rise to mount the shore, and lands will crack and rend anew. You think it's strange, it will come true. And in some far off distant land, some men, oh such a tiny band, will have to leave their solid mount and span the earth, those few to count. And those surviving this will then begin the human race again. But not on land already there, but on ocean beds, stark, dry, and bare. Not every...
Okay. Alright, thank you, Self. I appreciate it. Alright, cool. Let's come back. Let's bring it back. Okay, myself is done talking, doing my little Mothership and rap song. I don't know what to call that poem. All right, but I love it. Anyways, hey, somebody in the chat had mentioned on our break something about watching the older Zelda and stuff. I'm gonna talk about Zelda, and I don't know if I'm gonna do that tomorrow, but it's sometime soon. We're gonna break down a few of the symbols and symbolism contained in certain video games, specifically ones that I play, like the Legend of Zelda and Fortnite's Arcane Secrets coming up. So stay tuned for that. All right. So what we're doing is we're talking about geographic anomalies. We're talking about where, our own ideas, our own theories of where these things could come from, why they could look like this. And how about encouraging kids to ask the same? You know what I mean? Let's not just drive past. I try to make it a habit, not to just drive past weird looking rock formations and stuff, but to really point them out and to allow it to be a lesson for my son to ask questions, or for me to ask questions of him, so that he doesn't get in the mindset of, that's just a rock. That's just what it is. Yes, let's stretch our brains a little bit, right? So anyway, let's check this out. So this one's like a hole in the ground, basically. That one's okay. I'm not super interested in this one, so let's skip it. But yeah, it's basically a hole, and they don't know how it got there, and they don't know where it came from, and they're assuming that there's some sort of cave-in. This world is hollow, so you see cave-ins all over the place because it's hollow, and parts of it cave in from time to time based on, its structural integrity and all kinds of other factors. All right, so let's check this out. I like these ones. The Morocci, or Moraki. Man, how do you spell that? How do you pronounce that? Moraki. Probably Moraki. Anyways, I'm going to go Moraki because it sounds like Moraki. All right. The Moraki Boulders. So let's check it out. Where is it? Here we go. Resembling giant, I can't do it. All right. Resembling giant turtle shells, these spherical boulders lie strewn across New Zealand's Quekohe Koekohe Beach. All right, sorry. Resembling giant turtle shells, these spherical boulders lie strewn across New Zealand's Koekohe Beach. These boulders started forming in sediments on the seafloor. Oh my God. You got to do it in the voice. You got to do it in the voice. Ready? These boulders started forming in sediments on the seafloor over 60 million years ago. Carbonates built up from around a central core, similar to the way pearls form around a speck of grit. Okay, cool. I like how they gave us a little mental image so that we can somehow fashion into our mind gigantic bowling balls of rock. Okay? Like, they basically said, like, yeah, you know how, like, oysters and all that with pearls, yeah, so that's this. Like, that's basically what they just said. I'm not buying that either, okay? I'm not saying it's impossible, but come on. What does this look like? It looks to me like something petrified. That's what it looks like. It was already round and it petrified. Maybe it went up into the air and petrified, but I don't know. If these were in the air, if there's zero gravity and something's kind of muddy or whatnot, it will be rounded and possibly spherical, but I don't know if it would be perfectly spherical. It is possible, but let's read on. According to Maori legends. Now we're going to get into the truth, right? Let's put the millions of years away for a second and let's listen to what the legend says. According to Maori legends, the boulders are remnants of gourds and eel baskets washed ashore from the wreck of a sailing canoe. Well, some people would look at that and go, I know how big a canoe is. There's no way. That's just a story. That's an old wives' tale. Nobody should believe that. They didn't know what they were talking about because they're uneducated. Nah. That's how I hear people. But anyway, the legend says that the boulders are remnants of gourds. Well, let's look up a gourd. What is a gourd? Let's find out. Excuse me. Gourd, a fleshly, typically large fruit with hard skin, some varieties of which are edible. So wait a minute, you're telling me that these, according to legend, were plants. Giant, huge, flora and fauna that once grew, and now you're telling me they're rocks. If the legend is true, let's speculate. If the legend is true, then what you're looking at is proof that flora and fauna that once grew to great and grand sizes that we are unaccustomed to today because of our changing conditions of our world that we live in, aka pressure and gravity and some other things, these turned into rock. These became petrified, right? How much better of an explanation than, there was some ocean spit from like a clam and it like rolled around for millions of years. And then all of a sudden there's these rocks that are round. I don't believe that. I'm sorry. It doesn't sound right. Something sounds wrong. I love making fun of it. I'm sorry. All right, let's jump back into the chat. Let's see here. Where was I? I think I skipped a bunch. Sorry. Okay, cool. For everybody who's recommending that I go check out that channel, when I rewatch this video, I totally will, okay? Emery Crystal Thelen says, JayDreamerZ, what do you think of the Maroki boulders in New Zealand? That's awesome, right? All right, cool. We totally covered that. Also, JayDreamerZ, FPV Angel channel. This channel also is amazing. Okay, cool. Right on. Thank you. If you're going to recommend it, you don't have to type in @JayDreamerZ because I'll see it when I watch the chat later. Just type in @JayDreamerZ like if you're talking to me about something. Viral Keeler says, I love your attitude, JayDreamerZ. You're a light. Hey, man, thanks. That's awesome. All right, cool. Let's go on to the next thing. This one's kind of boring. I'm going to skip this one, honestly. It's some dunes. I see that. Now, how are sand dunes created? It's not boring. Let's talk about it. Come on. We got to talk about even the boring stuff because you can find magic and wonder in the mundane. Sometimes that's the best place to find it, actually. For example, when I was studying like the Bible, there's this really boring part where it's like Joseph beget so-and-so beget so-and-so, and so-and-so lived to be this long, and so-and-so beget so-and-so. And I was like, skip forward. I get the point. But then I studied it. Then I studied those names and I studied those mentions and I found some interesting breadcrumbs. So anyways, let's talk about this. How do we get these like sand dunes and stuff, right? Well, there's a couple of different things that I believe happen. One is wind, a worldwide tempest that blows everything up into the air and moves it across the surface of our world. And the other is water, right? once by fire, once by water. The water will cover everything. Imagine this is all covered up, and then you like have rushing water go over it in its currents. And this is going to explain to you next time you're out in the country and you look across and all you see are these rolling hills of dirt or grass or whatever all over the place. That's not millions of years of wind and rain. That's not what it is. That used to be the ocean bottom, okay? And that's what the ocean bottom looks like if you go down and you look at it. It doesn't even have to be the ocean. It could be a lake or a river or whatever. Any body of water makes sand look like that on the bottom, right? It might not be jagged, like very super jagged like that, but it also could be. I tend to lean towards like if it's more jagged looking that I attribute that to electromagnetics sometimes. And if it's more smoothed over, I attribute that to water sometimes, right? All right, so that's good that we talked about that. Let's move on to this next thing. Mikey Orgo says safe zones. I'm assuming that you're asking me to talk about safe zones, which I will not, because there are no safe zones. I believe there's safe destinies, like you're destined to survive this or you're not. But I got a lot of weird things about it. I know everybody wants like a guarantee. They want the golden ticket, right? They want their pass into heaven or the new age or the next era or whatever it is. And I'm here to tell you, hey, be a good person. If you live, you live. If you don't, you don't. But you were a good person, right? I can't speculate on like, I definitely don't want to be responsible for, telling people like, this is a guaranteed way to survive or whatever. And then it doesn't work out. Like, that's not cool for me to do. You know what I mean? I don't want to get people's hopes up and not also give them a dash of reality. We need to be grounded, right? We have to balance that left brain with the right brain, not just be all one or all the other. So I hope that helps out. All right, cool. Spring Harn made it. Welcome, Spring Harn. All right, cool. So let's check out this next one. This is called the Stone Forest in China. Blade-like columns of limestone. Interesting. So when it says limestone, you can pretty much replace that with like dead bodies. Okay, that's because that's what limestone is. Blade-like columns of limestone, many over 10 tall, meters probably. For a landscape that resembles a forest of stones, the region is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Whatever that means. You know what that probably means? That means the government took control of this area and they will charge you to check it out and they monitor it and they regulate it and all that. You know what I mean? God, I don't like any of that stuff. So, the stone forests. Here we go. You ready? The stone forest formed. Wait. In a world where nothing makes sense, the stone forest formed some 270 million years ago. Stop. Really? Are you serious? Bro, you can't tell me what happened 270 million years ago? Serious. With such confidence, too. These definitely formed 270 million years ago. I know. Bro, you do not know. Like, come on. Come on. I'm all about philosophy. I'm all about speculating, coming up with ideas. But it's crazy when people just take modern opinion that is basically not even opinion. It's just instruction that's been given to us that we have been told and commanded to believe in as if it's just pure fact and we're to accept it, right? Let's read it. The stone forest formed some 270 million years ago in what was once a shallow sea. All right. I'm with you. Shallow sea. Go. Sandstone and limestone accumulated in the basin. Interesting. Sand, stone. Okay. And was eventually pushed up into the air. Wow. Okay. I bet it's about to tell me how, right? The rocks were then shaped by wind and water to create these spectacular stone pillars. Wait, no, there's nothing, there's no substance. There's no substance at all in this explanation. Oh my gosh. It was eventually, hold on, this is their explanation. 270 million years ago. Back further than anybody can even imagine, basically. I could, but. All right, there was once a shallow sea. This sounds like a story, right? There was once a shallow sea. Sandstone and limestone accumulated. It just accumulated. You know, there was a shallow sea there. It just accumulated. However, it accumulates in the basin, which means the bottom, okay? And eventually pushed up into the air. They're not telling you how at all. They're not explaining this away. They're saying, yeah, eventually there was a bunch of like sand and it got pushed up into the air. Right? The rocks were shaped by wind and so it was pushed up into the air, and then water and wind went like, over millions of years. Remember, this is all happening, right? To create those spectacular stone pillars. I'm sorry. I don't want to spit on my monitor, man. Anyways, I don't think so. To me, it looks like some sort of, occurrence that had happened all at one time. Probably electromagnetic. It's all very sharp, very pointy, sort of smoothed out. I can see a little bit of smoothness to it, but this stuff juts up out of the ground. Come on, man. When you see something that shoots up right out of the ground, you know it, okay? Just because it's a rock does not mean that it didn't come from the ground and it grew up and it got petrified, or that it literally was like once mud or some sort of other material and it got pulled up by the electromagnetics and then petrified. Makes sense. Eyes to See is in the chat and says, JayDreamerZ, just like Devil's Tower was created by lava millions of years ago. You know what? Let's look at Devil's Tower real quick, because that one blows my mind. That's a really good example of BS on an academic scale. Devil's Tower. All right, cool. Let's check this out. Let's look at this image of Devil's Tower. Now, many of you are going to remember Devil's Tower from Close Encounters of the Third Kind, the movie, right? So look at this, right? Here's what they're going to tell you, okay? You got this tree stump looking thing in the ground. They're going to tell you that there was once a volcano all the way around it, and that this is the volcano plug. I'm dead serious. And that the rest of the volcano somehow, for some reason, eroded away and disappeared. Over millions of years it happened. Just imagine. Use your imagination real quick and then put it back. Right? That's pretty much what they say. There was a volcano. Wind and rain, I guess, right? Made the volcano disappear. It's gone. And all that's left is the plug. This is what they teach in school. This is what they teach your children. Okay? Your grown-ups, your relatives, everything. This is what they taught me. Okay? This blows my mind. Woo! Anyway, let's get back to these pictures that we're looking at, and then we'll wrap things up. All right, so here's another one. This one's called Valley of the Moon in Argentina. That's an interesting name. Valley of the Moon. Okay. I'm with you. Let's check it out. Arid and rugged, this barren landscape looks like, you guessed it, the surface of the moon. But it's actually a fossil graveyard where fossils died. Right? It doesn't say that because that sounds stupid, right? So it's not actually a fossil graveyard. Graveyards are for living things that died, not things that are already dead. Okay? That's like saying it's a skeleton graveyard. Bro, that's redundant. It's the same exact thing. Anyways, I'm sorry. I don't mean to argue with all the smart people. All right. This site contains undisturbed deposits from 250 to 200 million years ago. Fossils of some of the oldest dinosaurs, fish, amphibians, reptiles, and over 100 species of plants can be found. There are also huge petrified tree trunks. Let's not even mention this, like the thing in the picture. The thing in the picture, this is nothing of what you just described, bro. This is not a fossil of any of those things that you just described. At least it doesn't look like it. Looks to me like something was growing there and it petrified. Or something pulled it up and petrified it electromagnetically, right? Electrically. Possibly. It kind of does look like that. And also, if it was just a little bit, depending on the structure and the composition of these, of course, there is a such thing as erosion. Yeah, once these things are made, they start to fall apart over time, right? Erosion basically destroys those petrified remains and proof of ancient, fantastic history. So yeah, like erosion does exist. Does erosion create and make things that look exactly like the originals? Like giant dead giants and titans and plants and animals and stuff? No, erosion does not do that. Erosion pretty much works in one direction, okay? It erodes. Everything goes down, okay? It doesn't get all shaped into these wonderful shapes and stuff. So yeah, I like erosion and the concept. I know it's real, but I'm not going to blame erosion on the sculpting of these things, okay? Let's check out this one. It's called Wave Rock in Australia. Wave rock in Australia, where Thor lives. Thor's Australian. Did you know that? I'm sorry. I don't know why I'm in such a goofy mood tonight. This concave rock is 14 miles. No, I'm just kidding. 14 meters high and 110 meters long. It's a part of the northern side of Hayden Rock. Hayden Rock. Australian for mud fossils. I'm sorry. It's getting late. I get kind of goofy at night. A giant granite outcrop. Outcrop. That's a fancy word for we don't know how this was made. Over 2.7 billion years old. Billion now. Now we're just playing around with any kinds of numbers, right? I'm waiting for them to just use the word Google. It's a Google old. It's a Googleplex. Trust me. It was made like that. Anyway, located in Hayden Wildlife Park in Western Australia. The wave is believed. See how they stop right there? They just say believed, as if that's all encompassing by everyone. That's what they're implying. Don't fall for that. Watch out for the fine print, okay? The wave is believed, they don't say by who, to have been formed by the action of running water on granite. I would love to see somebody replicate that. I would really like to. I'd love to see somebody just spray some water at some granite, a rock, and it just shapes it out like that. I know. Somebody's going to say, bro, you could totally do it. Just got to do it for 1 billion years. That's all. Duh, super easy. Anyway, this wave is believed to have been formed by the action. Why do they even say that? They're just loading this sentence with empty filler. Of course it's an action, right? Of running water on granite. Anyway, the colorful streaks on its face are made of minerals left behind by rainwater runoff. I don't know about that. I'm more inclined to believe that this is either maybe it was once mud and then some sort of being that's gigantic, shaped it in this particular form for some reason. Or this could be the remains of a petrified being who is just laying down and dead on the ground, basically, and just became a part of the landscape. I'm more inclined to believe stuff like that than I am the whole wind and rain over millions of years. Or maybe, hey, is it more convincing if we do, what's that dude's name? The guy that played God man, my mind is blank. Morgan Freeman, right? Let's see if I can do Morgan Freeman. All right. This concave rock. I can't do it. I can't do Morgan Freeman. Come on. The wave is believed to have been... I can't even do it. I'm not even going to try it. Anyways, you know what I'm saying. They just get celebrities and people with cool voices to do voiceovers so that it sounds convincing and people believe that somehow the rain made this half pipe out of nature. I'm not sure about that. Anyways, let's keep moving. Whoa, check this one out. Wow, this is one of my favorite ones. This is a beautiful picture. Look at that. This is the world you live in. This looks non-real, right? Imagine how non-real it's going to look in the future. This is a remnant of what we consider to be fictitious past, okay? A past that is no longer believed in or remembered. This is a tiny piece of that. Look at it. It's beautiful. The Chocolate Hills. Interesting name. Because they're totally not chocolate-like looking. Anyways, maybe it's because they look like Hershey's Kisses. That's possible. Anyways, there are about 1,500 of these limestone mounds in Bohol province in the Philippines. Ooh, they are normally covered by grass, but turn a deep brown color during the dry season. I could see that. Okay. In 1988, the Chocolate Hills were declared the Philippines' third national geological monument. Okie dokie. So you know what that means? In 1988, the government took this land. That's basically what I hear. Okay. But look at that. Man, that's beautiful, right? What could that be? That looks to me, it almost looks like that part in the Neverending Story where the kid goes to Shell Mountain. You remember that? And he meets, what's that thing's name? Mora or something like that? The ancient one. Kind of looks like a bunch of shell mountains. I don't know. I would love to speculate on that all day long. It could be anything. It could be little plasma dimples that pulled it up. I don't know what that could be. But I definitely know it's not wind and rain over billions of trillions or quadrillions of years or any amount of years, okay? Where did that come from? Look at that. It's amazing. Sometimes you just got to wonder. Instead of trying to say, it's probably this, it's okay to not even know. It's okay to just stare at it and take it in. It's all right. It's okay to just, wow, behold that wonder and wonder at it. Because the more we wonder at these types of things, instead of assuming we know everything about everything, the more we become more like children and we return to an age of innocence. Oh, here's a good one. The Giant's Causeway in northern England. Look at this. This is amazing. Do you see these basalt columns? They're hexagonal. I believe they're hexagonal in nature, and they just shoot up out of the ground. Let's read and see what they say. First of all, it's called the Giant's Causeway. Why would they call it the Giant's Causeway? Because a long time ago when they named this, they were all stupid, and they all believed in giants that don't really exist, because we all know giants don't exist, right? No, I'm pretty sure they didn't name that because they wanted the world to make a mockery out of Ireland or their local region for all time. No, of course not. They named it that because it was an honor. They honored something by remembering it, by stamping it with a particular name, which is giants were here. This is the causeway, the walkway, the sidewalk, the catwalk, whatever you want to call it, for the road for the giants. That's what they named it. That's probably what it was, right? These massive hexagonal black basalt columns rise like steps and interlock neatly. Neatly, right? There are over 40,000 of them. They probably formed after volcanic activity 50 to 60 million years ago. Has anything happened recently in this world? Do we get any kind of recent, you know what I mean? Where you can see it? I don't know. Maybe. So anyways, they formed in a possibly large amount of time ago. The sizes of the columns were most likely determined by the speed at which they erupted, at which the erupted lava cooled. Time out. They're trying to say that this is lava erupted and like cooled off. Actually, it doesn't even cool that fast. You can't imagine lava just going and cooling, right? So they're trying to tell you that this, have you seen lava? Let's look at lava. I mean, come on, let's make some really simple observations. Let's just type in lava. We all know what lava looks like, but you were just told differently. You were just told that lava is hexagonal, right? Basically. Do you see this? Puddles, okay, of this fluid plasma, plastic looking stuff. This is lava. Okay. Let's type in what do you call it? Dry lava. Dried lava, I guess. Let's look at a dried lava bed if they have one. Okay, cool. Here you go. So this is dry lava. It looks kind of like the non-dry type, but dry, but hard, right? Does it look like that? No, doesn't. Not at all. Not even close. So I take these instructions from academia with a grain of salt. I look at it, and I will take a little piece of what they say because everything has a grain of truth to it. Excuse me. I'm so sorry about all the coughing. All right. So how many more of these do we have? Wow, there's a bunch. All right. Let's speed through these. It's getting late where I am. All right. So what is this? Bryce Canyon National Park in Utah, right across the way from me. So look at this. This is a canyon, right? As you can see, the land juts up out of the ground. It's almost making arrows that literally point up to the sky. Do you see that? Hold up. Let me see if I can bring it back. Do you see this? See how it pretty much points up? Almost as if it either grew up out of the ground or was pulled up out of the ground, right? It's not because it used to be all solid. That whole canyon was filled in at one time, but then rain made it all disappear and it's all gone now. That doesn't make sense. Rain isn't acid. It doesn't just dissolve it into nothing, right? Yes, there's some erosion that's happening. You can see, some sand and stuff that's come down over time because wind and rain will destroy what was created, for sure. But they don't shape it. They don't do the initial shaping. They do the destroying and the tearing of it down, right? But they don't make the initial structure that looks like this. They don't make the canyon, okay? The Grand Canyon was not made by wind and rain. If you've ever been there, you already know. Okay? It was not made by a river. a little snake river winding around made the Grand Canyon. I'm sorry. I've been to the Grand Canyon. There was a time when I was dumb enough to get tricked into it by looking at two-dimensional pictures of the Grand Canyon and them showing me some water at the bottom. Imagine that. Water got collected into the bottom of a canyon. Wow. And made a river. Wow. It must have always been there. And that must be what caused it. No, I'm sorry. Totally not. Not at all. All right. Let's see what they got here. Bryce Canyon National Park, Utah, located on the Colorado Plateau. That's close to where I am. The Bryce Canyon in southern Utah is a natural amphitheater filled with spires and hoodoos. Hoodoo? You do. Do that voodoo that you do so well. I had to. I'm sorry. The Baiwete Native Americans called it red rocks standing like men in a bowl-shaped canyon. Interesting. Okay. The hoodoos were formed when water repeatedly froze and then melted in the vertical cracks of sedimentary rocks. Some hoodoos are taller than a 10-story building. Okay, cool. So that's their official explanation. Let's check this one out. I've talked about the wave. This is the wave in Vermilion Cliffs National Monument, right? Check that out. Now, just looking at that, forget about what they tell you it is. Forget about what you think it is because it looks like it's just rock. It's just a rock. Let's get rid of the just a rock mentality. What does it look like if it was not a rock? What would be like your top 3 things that would be if it wasn't a rock? If that was not, if it was something else had to explain what this is. That's all I'm asking. I'm not saying I know. I'm saying what other things could it possibly be? And instead of just saying it's just a rock and then the water had an X Games over time and, they did their 1080s and then they came back down. I'm sorry. It sounds too ridiculous for me. So let's hear what they say. The Vermilion Cliffs. Is that what it is? Yeah. So popular among hikers, Vermilion Cliffs is a treasure trove of deep canyons and steep cliffs. It's also home to the wave pictured here, which is made up of undulating sandstone. Okay, I agree. That's what it looks like, for sure. The monument is located on the Colorado Plateau and gets its rich reddish hues from the sandstone that formed the landscape. The colors of the site change as the day progresses. That's interesting. I didn't know that. Pretty cool. It looks like bacon to me, so I'm just going to throw that out there. That looks like little fat striations, right, of something that maybe died or something. Possibly could be. It also could be, like that there was flooding and it moved the minerals around. And whenever you do that, whenever you have different types of minerals and you put them in like a jar and you put water in there and you shake it up and stuff, they will layer out into their sediments and their layers and stuff. So it could be something like that too. I like to think that it's like a giant piece of bacon, basically. Or, basically leftovers from some sort of dead titan or giant or something like that. All right, let's move on. This is cool. Because do you see this dude right here? This is a person. And these are crystals. This is awesome. The Crystal Cave in the Naka Mine. The Cave of Crystals in Mexico. This cave contains gigantic sword-like gypsum crystals. Gypsum is also interesting. I'm going to have to do a little more studying on gypsum, but it also pops up in my research from time to time. It says this is 300 meters underground in the Naka Mine in the Mexican state of Chihuahua. It was discovered by 2 brothers drilling for lead and silver. Interesting. The enormous crystals are believed to have formed when gypsum-saturated groundwater flowed through the caves and was heated and cooled by hot magma below. Okay, some of the largest crystals may be over 500,000 years old. I don't even know about that. I'm going to have to look into and figure out, whatever alternatives there are. That's the first time I've ever heard, about that story and how they came to be. But just look at it. This is amazing. Do you see that? Huge, giant crystals all over the place. Now, if you watch The Neverending Story, which I believe is a true story, that's just told in story form. It's a true story that's told in symbolism. There's a part where Atreyu, every time he goes and he tries to go through like the different lands in Fantasia, he always goes through a crystal land. A land that's just comprised of crystal. You know what else this kind of looks like? Superman's, what does he call it? Palace of Peace? No, Fortress of Solitude, right? Looks like Superman's Fortress of Solitude when he takes that little tiny crystal and he throws it into the ice and it starts growing like his house and stuff. That's what this looks like. Interesting. Maybe they're connected. Maybe the gods or those super strength beings that come down from above during the plasma apocalypse and a world filled with giant mushrooms and huge crystals and stuff, maybe they're connected somehow. Interesting. Let's see what else we got here. I love looking at images of the Earth from way above in an airplane. I don't know if you guys have ever had the chance to sit in the window section next to in an airplane, like by the window. But wow, you can really look at the ground and just see how it's scarred from plasma all over the place. You can see how it's shaped from worldwide flooding. You can see all this stuff from above. It's amazing. It's awesome. I love it. Like, I would way rather look out of the windows inside of an airplane than watch whatever in-flight movie garbage they have going on, or you know what I mean, whatever it is. I'm checking it out every time. All right, let's see here. So this is the San Andreas Fault in California. It's actually not San Andreas's fault. It's the plasmas. Sorry, I had to. All right. Let's see. Is this the last one? All right, we'll go over it real quick. This is one giant fracture on the Earth's crust. The crust. Come on, do we still name the Earth, the top of the Earth where we live, the crust? We live on the crust? Come on, like, man. All right, anyways. This one giant fracture on the Earth's crust, nearly 1,300 kilometers long, the fault line began forming over 30 million years ago when the two massive tectonic plates... I'm not a huge fan of tectonic plate theory, okay? Let me stop. Basically, what they teach in school is all of the continents float. Okay. I'm sorry, but this is really what they teach. They teach that all of the continents are their own tectonic plates, which is just a fancy word for Earth, okay? And they like to convince people that they just float around and they move around like little islands over time. I'm sorry, but rocks don't float in the water. They don't float around. They don't move around. They grow. The Earth grows, don't get me wrong, for sure. It'll definitely grow. But all of it does. You know, in places, it grows here, it grows there. It definitely does that. But I don't know if there's like actual plates that are like growing against one another. Usually when stuff grows, it grows with itself, not against itself, right? Unless there's some sort of defect, then it would grow against itself. And that's where they teach us mountains come from, right? This blows my mind. They're like, yeah, so tectonic plates, here's the San Andreas Fault, right? It used to be land and it pulled away and it gave you the fault line. That's what they say. And the exact opposite is how they made the Colorado Rockies. The land pushed together over time, creating the pointy spires of the mountains. Nope, sorry. They would all look like that, right? You would see them all look like that across the board every time. It would very much look like it. Doesn't look like that. Anyway, let's see. This was formed 30 million years ago when two tectonic plates, the Pacific and North American, collided. So this was formed when the plates collided. A collision, in my mind, doesn't happen over millions of years. It's more of like a sudden thing that happens, but hey, whatever. To each their own. All right, so thanks for joining me on our amazing tour of strange anomalies, geological anomalies of the world. I loved it. I had a great time. How do I get rid of that? There it is. Oh, that's my little frame I had. All right, anyways. So let me jump into the chat. I just want to see, does anybody have any final thoughts, any questions, anything you wanted to point out, something I may have missed because I wasn't really looking at the chat the whole time? Feel free to jump in now. We'll take about 5 minutes just to sort of have some small discussions, and if anybody has anything else. I'm super sorry about my coughing lately. I started jogging and running and stuff again, so yeah, my body's happy with me, don't get me wrong, but when you exercise suddenly, when you haven't done it in a long time, the body's like, I'm really mad at you right now, but I like what you're doing. So anyway. All right, cool. So I don't really see that anybody has anything in the chat. I'm glad you guys are getting along so well. I really love that you welcome the new people. I really love that about all of you in the Good Vibe Tribe. Whenever a new person comes into the chat, people are welcoming, you know, they're talking and throwing ideas around and stuff. There's no bickering. There's no debates. There's no arguing or anything. It's just people coming together to check stuff out together, right? and I'm one of them. So until next time, I'm JayDreamerZ saying good vibes and goodbye. Have a good night, guys. I'll see you tomorrow.
Hard to fade away, but something's forcing me to stay. It'd be easier for me if I turn away to flee. Oh, but there's something holding on, the way of being long gone. So many ways to escape, but I guess it's time to wake up, time to wake up. Far too many ways to escape, but I guess it's time to wake up, time to wake up. Time to wake up, time to wake up, baby. Time to wake up, time to wake up. Hard to fade away, but something's forcing me to stay. It'd be easier for me if I turn away to flee. Oh, but there's something holding on, the way of being long gone. So many ways to escape, but I guess it's time to wake up, time to wake up. Far too many ways to escape, but I guess it's time to wake up, time to wake up. Time to wake up, time to wake up, baby. Time to wake up, time to wake up.
I love this song. Don't you guys love this song? Okay, I just wanted to pop in real quick. The credits are looking a little weird right now because honestly I didn't have time to do them because it takes a while. So I'm going to get the credits done, especially for all the people who joined as members and stuff. I definitely want to show you my respect and say thank you, putting you into the credits. So I'm definitely going to work on that tomorrow morning so we can get like a actual credits going instead of me scrolling down on all the members. Sorry, but hey. Also, I got a donation at the last second. Mikey Orgo bought like a super chat sticker, which is pretty cool. And you can check that in the chat. Thanks a lot for your donation, Mikey. Appreciate you. All right, guys. You guys have a great rest of your week. And I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. Bye. Awkward part where